Hey everyone, welcome back to the Radical Care for Christian Counselors podcast. So excited that you're here. And just to make sure that you're in the right place, if you're a Christian counselor or a mental health professional, a pastoral care leader, or really anyone who wants to care well for other people by starting with yourself and really wants to do it in a God-honoring way, you're in the right place. Here we really work with groups and small group formats, but we give tools and resources to help you really walk that out, whether you're a counselor, whether you're a parent, whether you're a pastor, whether you're a coach, whether you wear so many different hats. Here's the truth. When somebody is right in front of you, when you have a group of people right in front of you, do you know how to create a safe space where they can be seen and soothed and safe and secure? And if not, well, that's what we get to practice here. So you're in the right place. We're right in the middle of our Cognitive Distortion series. This one's a little different, so I'm going to explain some of the resources that you can find down below. Number one is our Cognitive Distortions PDF. So if you just want a list of what these cognitive distortions are, or what, like we try to say, stinking thinking, you can find that down below and you can try to see, okay, which ones are more present in my life. Number two is the Rosebud app that I use pretty much every single day. And sometimes we do series that I'm like, okay, I refer back to this Rosebud thing a lot. And so I'm just going to put that down here. Oh, to 100% completely up to you. But one thing I do like is it's got journaling and ways that mental health, the cognitive distortions, it's got internal family systems, it's got so many different modalities in there that you can use. And that is where I found a lot of the cognitive distortion examples in my own life. So that has helped me out tremendously. I think if you do decide to do a subscription, I get a little bit off of my yearly subscription. So it helps. But if you don't, that's 100% fine too, whatever is comfortable for you. So today's cognitive distortion is, I feel like I'm on Sesame Street. Today's letter of the day is, sorry, I had to throw that out there. Okay, focus. Today's cognitive distortion is personalization, basically taking personal responsibility for something that's not yours. Okay, how many of us have dealt with that? So many of us have dealt with that. And surprisingly, it used to be one of my lead cognitive distortions because I wanted to take responsibility. I had to because I couldn't deal with the reality of what was going on around me. That's a whole nother story. But however, we actually do this even in our everydays. Even the healthiest people do this. A great example that literally just happened to me before I got on this podcast is that one of my kids my oldest actually just texted me. He's in the car and he's like, Mom, I'm headed home, but I got to stop and get air for the tires. And I was thinking, man, I should have made sure that he did that beforehand. I should have made sure that it was pumped. Maybe I should have gotten better tires. Are they okay? I mean, my mind's like going everywhere and everything came back to my fault. And I literally stopped myself from going, oh my goodness, I'm about to record a podcast about personalization. And I just did it. I couldn't have protected that. I couldn't have made it so his tires were for sure filled up. I mean, there's only so much in my control. I made sure that they had great tires. I don't know why it's leaking air, so I'm gonna have to deal with that. That is my control. When they get home, we're gonna be checking those tires. Matter of fact. But again, it was beyond my control. So I caught myself in that. Thank goodness. Another example, which may be a little bit more down to earth and serious, is that I remember a couple years ago when I was working at the church, I would take the car to get fixed to the car shop. And this is back when I was driving more regularly. And it was just right down the street. So a bunch of us, whenever we had car work to do, we had it done during the workday because anybody could just drive us right up the street and pick it up. Really convenient, especially if you're going to be at work all day like I was. So I get the call about the huge bill, whatever it was, to get whatever it was fixed. I don't even remember what it was. And so I have my coworker come and she takes me up and drops me off. And I pay for the huge bill for the car that needed to get fixed. And I still had work that I needed to do at the church. So I drove back to the church and parked. And I noticed that she wasn't there. And I passed a wreck on the way back. And I was like, no, that couldn't have been her. What's the chance that that's her? And I remember texting her. And eventually it's either we found out or I sent a staff member to go check on her, and it was her, and she had gotten rear-ended on the way back. I just remember thinking, I just went to the shame storm. And I sat there at the desk going, is she going to be okay? And this is after she had texted me that she was okay. But I know that later on that she was having back pain. And I noticed even that day when she came in and just gave me a hug and told me everything was okay, I was like, no, it's my fault. Like, this is 100% my fault. And I really did have to wrestle with that a lot. I'm like, if I would have gone at any other time, if I wouldn't have asked her, maybe this wouldn't have happened. I mean, her car was totaled. She was not allowed to drive that car anymore, like it was totaled. And I just felt horrible about everything that had happened. Finally, I had another colleague come up to me and just tell me, he's like, so you're trying to take responsibility for something that's not yours, are you? And I'm like, but somehow this has to be mine, because in my mind, that would make it right. And I had to deal with some things. And this has followed me a lot during my life, is taking responsibility for things that are not mine, because I desperately want to feel like I'm in control. I desperately want to feel like I can fix something. I desperately want to feel like I can make something right. But there are things in our lives that we can't make right. There are many things in our lives that are beyond our control. That's why we have God. That's why we have an amazing God where nothing is beyond his control. But it definitely is something that we have to wrestle with, isn't it? So I have to ask you, do you wrestle with this cognitive distortion? Do you often want to take responsibility for things that are not in your control? Can I challenge you for something? There's a lot of times that we deal with this for so many different reasons, and I'm not going to list them all here. And if you're a counselor, you're probably going, yes, Bethany, I know. My question for you is, as you notice this cognitive distortion come true in your life, and you realize that, okay, I'm taking responsibility for things that are not mine. After you go through labeling what that responsibility is and make sure that you can pass it off to God, I want you to ask yourself, why is it so important that I feel like I have control over this? Why is that so important to me? And sit there in curiosity with God and really have some time where you can just really process that with Him. Because there's most likely something's going on. There's some kind of hurt, there's some kind of wound, there's something going on there where you're holding on tight. The hardest thing to do isn't the whole letting go. The hardest thing to do is to trusting Him that He's going to take care of it and not taking it back. Have you really let go? Have you really let Him take it? It's a process. It's not just one and done. Definitely a process. And I'm with you and I'm walking with that. So, yes, this is a cognitive distortion, but man, it sure feels good sometimes when we can use that, right? And make it feel like it is our control. And good thing is, I did eventually process that, and with the whole car thing, and she did get her car replaced, and everything ended up working out. But it was definitely was a lesson to me, and it was a wake up call, and it helped me label this cognitive distortion in my life. So, how's that like for you? What does that look like for you? Can you think about a time in your life where you practiced that? Have you really given it to God? You know, sometimes groups and people help us out label these cognitive distortions. And if that's you, if you're looking for a group, I would love to invite you out to the TIP community group, which is starting very soon in January 2025 for our next 6-month journey. And we'd love to have you on that. And checking out TIP groups or checking out any of the Step Out and Thrive groups that we can be with you. You can check that out at bethanyboring.com or stepoutandthrive.com. And remember, dare to do more than just survive. Step out and thrive. Have an amazing week, you all, and see you guys back here next week.